the Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, Matthew Dickerson. Good morning.
Good morning, Rod. Great to be chatting to you again.
Are you about to board a flight and go to Ballina, eh?
Well, we can do it again. As of the beginning of September, the Dubbo to Ballina flights with Fly Pelican were in operation for a period of time, but it's pretty hard to run an airline during a pandemic to run all your routes, and in the end, it got too much for them, and so they did pause those, and they did make the promise at the time that it was a pause and it wasn't cancellation of those flights altogether. Obviously, everyone was hopeful they would come back, and they have come back. And at the beginning of September, you were able to fly direct to Ballina from Dubbo again. And during the time it was running, we had about 5,000 people use the service. Many people thought maybe it would be a great way for people in Dubbo and the region to get up to the coast, to get a bit of a break, to get to some warmer weather. But the data that came through showed that just as much as people from this region were keen to get to Ballina, people from Ballina and that region there were keen to get to Dubbo, see the zoo, see the old Dubbo Jail, the Wellington Caves, just get a break somewhere inland. So it actually worked really well for tourism from both areas. So we're pretty keen to see that return. Not too bad in pricing, $179 for one way. And when you consider the price of petrol these days, it probably gets pretty expensive to drive up there as well. But the convenience of jumping in a plane at Dubbo and landing at Ballina sounds pretty attractive.
Better than driving and much quicker as well as cheaper probably.
Well, that's right with the price of petrol, isn't it?
Absolutely. Now, Dubbo is dreaming.
We are dreaming. Some people said we might have been dreaming 10 years ago when the Dream Festival started, but as a celebration of dance and entertainment and arts and music, then it has been a really successful event. Now, again, that little pandemic thing, it's going to be an asterisk we see on lots of events in the years to come, isn't it? For a couple of years, we haven't been able to have Dream. Obviously, you haven't been able to gather a huge number of people together. And there has been, in the past, a huge number of people gathered to do with Dream. This year, again, we're going to see Acoustic on the 16th of October, Fong Lee's Lane on the 21st of October down at Wellington. But the thing that most people would recognise with Dream is the Dream Lantern Parade, and that'll be on the 22nd of October. And there traditionally have been thousands of people gather for the Dream Lantern Parade. Again, something we couldn't do during the pandemic, but something that people will be really keen to see happen again.
Yeah, a greater range of events, and as you say, people just love lantern parades.
It is. It looks really nice when you've got the Lantern Parade happening, and people like to get out and get involved in it. They don't have to do too much. They can just go down and be part of the Lantern Parade. So I think it's one of those things that it's got a nice romantic notion to it. Nice and simple, like what a simple concept, but it has been really popular.
People can find out all the details at dreamfest.com.au.
Exactly right. So all the details of the events there and how you get tickets to them if you need tickets. Not all of them need tickets, of course. Some of them you can just turn up for, but all the details on there, and something that I'm really excited to see come back. I do remember when it did start, I was on council at the time, and there was one particular councillor who was very keen on creating some form of festival, and so it's been really successful from there on.
A community like Dubbo needs something like this. It's wonderful. This is not such good news, though. Some of the riverbank has fallen in.
Yeah, along Trackleigh Cycleway, we've got a fantastic cycleway there, and people use that for running and taking their dogs for a walk and riding their bikes. One of the great facets of that is that it's very close to the river. So you can walk along the cycleway and you can see the river there, and isn't that beautiful? But being close to the river means that if you get something that happens to the riverbank, then that can be a bit dangerous. And with all the rain we've had and all the water flowing out of the dam, there's two particular parts of the riverbank that have actually fallen in. About a metre or a metre and a half of riverbank has been taken away there with those landfalls. So you've got two parts there now. We've got some bunting around Trackleigh Cycleway, just directing people around those parts, because as nice as it is being close to the river, you're a bit too close to the river with those two sections now, and we are worried that something further may happen there. So we're going to have to do some work and some investigation to see what might happen there, whether we've got to put some protection in place, what we might be able to do to protect that from falling in further. It's just at the area down near Sandy Beach, from Tamworth Street across to Sandy Beach, that section there where you're going around a corner where the river has effectively been eating away at the corner there, and there's two parts that did actually collapse in. So just be aware of that. If you're down using Trackleigh Cycleway, just be careful of that area.
All right, and also some work being undertaken on the Mitchell Highway at Wellington.
If you're going through Wellington, then there is a spot there where there is some work being done under the road. What that's created on top of the road is just a 40k roadwork zone. The underboring there is part of the bores that we're getting across from bores on one side of the river across to the water treatment plant on the other side. And that's a fairly long pipeline, about 5 kilometres roughly. And at one part of that, it's actually got to go under the highway. Now, in the old days, you would go and dig up the highway and have traffic control in place and stop traffic, and it'd be a fairly complicated exercise. Now it's quite fascinating. They essentially dig a hole on either side of the highway and then literally bore directly underneath the highway. So the traffic can keep going over the road. You just have to slow down a bit because there are workers in place there. But it's such a better process now than it used to be years ago. So quite a fascinating process. But just be aware of that if you're going through, there will be a slowdown of traffic rather than a complete stop of traffic around that area.
Matthew Dickerson, thanks for your time today.
Always my pleasure, Rod.